Crazy Horse, or in the Lakota language, Ta-sunko-witko, was a great Lakota war leader of the Oglala band in the 19th century, who took up arms against the United States federal government to fight against encroachment by white American settlers on Native American territory and to preserve the traditional way of life of the Lakota people. Sources differ on the precise year of Crazy Horse's birth, but most agree he was born between 1840 and 1845, near modern-day Rapid City, South Dakota. Crazy Horse was born to parents from two different bands of the Lakota division of the Sioux, his father being an Oglala and his mother a Minneconjou. His father was also named Crazy Horse, and his mother's name was Rattling Blanket Woman. Rattling Blanket Woman affectionately named her new son Fahim, which translates to curly son, or Zizi, or light hair, as his light curly hair resembled her own. He was known as Curly for much of his life. Sadly, Rattling Blanket Woman died when Curly was just 4 years old, but his father would take her sister as a wife, and she would help raise the young boy. As Curly grew, he was taught according to tribal customs, and the Oglala tribe were very dedicated to raising strong sons and daughters. Curly quickly proved himself a brave and strong warrior who could hunt, shoot, and confidently ride a horse. Curly lived in a Lakota camp in present-day Wyoming and spent most of his time with his younger half-brother, Little Hawk, and a cousin, High Horse. In 1854, the camp was entered by Lieutenant John Lawrence Grattan and 29 other U.S. troopers who intended to arrest a Minneconjou man for stealing a cow. Tensions quickly escalated over the stolen cow, and a battle broke out after a soldier fatally shot Chief Conquering Bear. The Lakota returned fire, killing all 30 soldiers and a civilian interpreter in what was later called the Grattan Massacre. After witnessing the death of Conquering Bear at the Grattan Massacre, Curly went out on a vision quest to seek guidance. After fasting for 2 days, he had a vision. In his vision, a warrior on his horse rode out of a lake. The horse seemed to float and dance throughout the vision, and the warrior wore simple clothing, no face paint, his hair down with just a feather in it, and a small brown stone behind his ear. Bullets and arrows flew around him as he charged forward, but neither he nor his horse was hit. A thunderstorm came over the warrior, and his people grabbed hold of his arms, trying to hold him back. The warrior broke their hold, and then lightning struck him, leaving a lightning symbol on his cheek, and white marks like hailstones appeared on his body. The warrior told Curly that as long as he dressed modestly, his tribesmen did not touch him, and he did not take any scalps or war trophies, he would not be harmed in battle. Curly's father later interpreted the vision and said that the warrior was going to be him. The lightning bolt on his cheek and the hailstones on his body were to become his war paint. Curly was to follow the warrior's role to dress modestly and to do as the warrior's prophecy said so he would be unharmed in battle. For the most part, Curly's vision would come true throughout his life, as he was rarely harmed in battle. Later in Curly's life, his father, perhaps proud of the brave warrior he had seen his son become, changed his name to Worm and gave his name to his son. From then on, Curly would be known as Crazy Horse. Through the late 1850s and early 1860s, Crazy Horse's reputation as a warrior grew, as did his fame among the Lakota. Crazy Horse bravely fought in numerous battles between the Lakota and their traditional enemies, the Crow, Shoshone, Pawnee, Blackfeet, Arikara, and eventually the U.S. Army. On December 21, 1866, Crazy Horse and 6 other warriors decoyed Captain William Fetterman's 53 infantrymen and 27 cavalry troopers under Lieutenant Grumman into an ambush. The regiment had been sent out from Fort Phil Kearny to follow up on an earlier attack on a wood tree. The battle began when Crazy Horse lured Fetterman's infantry up a hill, while the other 6 warriors drew Grumman's cavalry along Pino Head Ridge toward Pino Creek. Meanwhile, Cheyenne leader Little Wolf and his warriors, who had been hiding on the opposite side of Pino Head Ridge, blocked the return route to the fort. The Lakota warriors swept over the hill and attacked the infantry. Additional Cheyenne and Lakota hiding in the buckbrush along Pino Creek effectively surrounded the soldiers, and a battle commenced. The combined warrior forces of nearly 1,000 killed all of the U.S. soldiers in what became known as the Fetterman Massacre. The Lakota and Cheyenne call it the Battle of the 100 in the Hand. It was the Army's worst defeat on the Great Plains up to that time. When gold was discovered in the Black Hills in 1874, there was an aggressive push from white settlers to occupy the land, which was controlled by the Lakota peoples. An alliance was created between the Lakota and Northern Cheyenne, and war erupted against the United States, which would later be known as the Great Sioux War. On June 17, 1876, Crazy Horse led a combined group of approximately 1,500 Lakota and Cheyenne in a surprise attack against brevetted Brigadier General George Crook's force of 1,000 cavalry and infantry, and allied 300 Crow and Shoshone warriors in the Battle of the Rosebud. The battle, although not substantial in terms of human losses, delayed Crook's joining the 7th Cavalry under General George A. Custer, which contributed to Custer's subsequent defeat at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. A week later at 3 p.m., on June 25, 1876, Custer's 7th Cavalry attacked a large encampment of Cheyenne and Lakota bands along the Little Bighorn River, marking the beginning of his last battle. Crazy Horse is said to have rallied his warriors before the fight with the war cry Hokahay, which many have interpreted to mean today is a good day to die before charging into battle. There is some ambiguity surrounding Crazy Horse's involvement in the Battle of the Little Bighorn. While some historians think that Crazy Horse led a flanking assault, ensuring the death of Custer and his men, the only proven fact is that Crazy Horse was a major participant in the battle. His personal courage was attested to by several eyewitness Indian accounts. Waterman, one of the only 5 Arapaho warriors who fought, said Crazy Horse was the bravest man I ever saw. He rode closest to the soldiers, yelling to his warriors. All the soldiers were shooting at him, but he was never hit. Another Sioux battle participant, Little Soldier, said, "The greatest fighter in the whole battle was Crazy Horse." The U.S. troops were seriously beaten in the Battle of the Little Bighorn, where nearly 270 men were killed, including General Custer. But the continuous military campaigns and the intensive diplomatic efforts of the United States would eventually win them the war. In the early spring of 1877, large numbers of northern bands began to surrender, including Crazy Horse, who surrendered with his band at Red Cloud on May 5th. On September 5th, orders were given to arrest Crazy Horse and take him to the division headquarters. Crazy Horse was taken to the postguard house of the Red Cloud Agency, where a fight broke out between himself and the guards. Crazy Horse would be stabbed by a guard with a bayonet and died shortly before midnight. The following morning, his body was given to his elderly parents, who moved his remains to an undisclosed location where he was laid to rest. Throughout his life, Crazy Horse exhibited one-of-a-kind bravery, cunning, and leadership. He fought for his people and his people's way of life, truly making him a legend of the West.